Thank you so much for the introduction. As I mentioned, I'm Cyrill Kellerhals, Head of Manufacturing at Andelyn Biosciences. I go over the next few slides a little bit through our strategy, how we bring an idea on a napkin to a commercial viable product. We talked a lot about Biosciences in the previous presentation. Andelyn was the foundation place where Biosciences got founded by Dr. Mantel many, many years ago, and a lot of the team members which still work at Andelyn Biosciences really helped to drive the product forward. So I will give a little bit more detailed introduction what we do at Andelyn, our legacy, how the name came together with Andelyn, our production platform, and then really go a little bit more into the details, how we try to reduce the risk, because at the end of the day, we want to serve as many patients as possible, as fast as possible, and in the most resourceful way. And there are three components. One is the commercial manufacturing, which is really close to my heart as the head of manufacturing. But nevertheless, we need a good sound control strategy from a QC standpoint, and then you need a good process development. So Andelyn Biosciences, we are a spin-off of Nationwide Children's Hospital located in Columbus. We have 3 locations all in Columbus itself. We have our plasmid facility still on the NTH campus. We have a brand new GMP manufacturing facility across of the OSU campus, and then a little bit further up north in Dublin, we have our development center. Really, one of the advantages is that all 3 locations are 10 minutes drive, so if I need to tech transfer, if I need to transfer knowledge, people, etc., it's a really easy drive from one location to the other, and it really helps us to accelerate. Besides Nationwide Children's Hospital, we have a strategic partnership with Cytiva and Paul. So Paul got rolled in Cytiva, which really helps us to be agile during the pandemic and even today where supply chain challenges are still arising. So it's really helping us be agile. Going back a little bit to history, you see there a couple of the milestones, but I think really going back to the previous presentation, Mesa and /Biosciences was really one of the major milestones. We also worked on one specific other program. It's 9001 from Sarepta, which has got now from the FDA. But throughout the history, and you see it goes quite far back, we really generated data. We generated really the knowledge around the AAV manufacturing. And it really helps us now to leverage this data, all this history to be really agile when we go to the late stage operations. So we have, as a CDMO, and we are a classical CDMO, so we don't have our own products. We really focus on our clients. We have 4 pillars. Starting material, in this case, it's plasmids. We can offer research talks and GMP plasmids. We have plasmid cloning services, and we can master cell banking, working cell bank creation. We do majority of our testing in-house, which allows us to be agile and really be faster in then the vector manufacturing. We have process development, which has multiple aspects. We can do small scale, we can do large scale. In the process development, we have a 200-liter bioreactor in the PD lab, and we have the same equipment also in our GMP manufacturing. So when I have an SOP, a process, etc. established in the PD lab, I can transfer it one-to-one into the GMP manufacturing space. Going back to really the close proximity, my team is going to the PD lab, learn the technology, learn really how to manage the new environment, and then I can really get the knowledge into my GMP facilities, and I have also the opportunity to get the scientists from the PD lab into the GMP world. So it's really a seamless transfer. Manufacturing, we have 2 platforms. We have the TIRM platform, which is a Corning Hyperstack, and then we have suspension up to 2,000 liters. We can, of course, in the GMP manufacturing, we can do engineering tox batches if needed, but our main focus is really GMP there. And last but not least, we have fill finish. We can do manual fill and semi-automated fill for CC vials. Many of you wonder why you do manual fill. We have a lot of rare and ultra-rare diseases. and clients. And if you have just one patient, one sublot, you don't want to lose majority of your product and your product pathway. So we are really focusing to save the product that we can treat as many people as possible. On the whole foundation between the 4 pillars, we have a quality assurance organization, which is agile, helping us throughout the different phases, QC, analytical process development, and then of course we have regulatory support. So reflecting a little bit, what else do we offer as a CDMO, which really is our legacy, our rich history, which we created over the last 2 decades. And this helps us really to optimize our production platforms. And you see on the right-hand side there in the little graph, the scale-up performance from the suspension platform. As you also see, the 2,000 liter is a little bit lower than the rest. And there's a reason. We just run the 2,000 liter with 750 liter volume. So not optimized and not really designed for the bioreactor. And also we added significant steps. But still with this lower volume, with this lower or with suboptimal conditions, we met our goal to be minimum comparable with the Therium platform. So reflecting further, and I'm pretty sure you all can, identify the similar challenges from in the current environment. Is it to understanding the regulatory landscape, which is changing all the time? Financing is still a challenge in the current environment. I think it got better, but it can be still improved. But there are still some major additional ones, which is the manufacturing process, the understanding the process development, and of course the technical challenges, which will arise during any kind of production. So at Andelyn, we created several strategies to really overcome these hurdles. And one is really, looking what is out there, and then is ICH Q8, Q9, Q10, which are really a foundation from that perspective to really go from an idea to a commercial manufacturing, reduce the risk. You have the 3 dimensions, the process development, which is described in Q8, you see is heavily focused on preclinical, and the more you go from the left side to the right-hand side, it's reducing because your process should be more stable. Then quality risk assessment, independent on which stage you are, it's an absolutely must. You need to identify your risk as early as possible, and you need to have a strategy in place. And last but not least, at the bottom of Q10, the quality management system is increasing the closer you get to phase 3 and commercial. So, 3 great papers. You can all read them, but what does it mean really for us at Andelyn? So for Q8, process characterization, process description is really the foundation. I know it's normally not really the fancy part when you have to write risk assessment process maps, but you need to fundamentally understand what your process is, what is your normal operating range in your process, and then you have to really assess, does my equipment meet my process parameter? It's not a great idea if you have a certain process parameter, but your incubator is not capable to meet the overall set point. It's important to have a true process understanding with a process FMEA. You need to understand what your critical process parameter is and that you can create a control strategy. And then you need to have a really analytical testing strategy around these parameters. One important part is raw material assessment and strategy. When you go through the different phases, you have different perspective and different requirements. If you have a raw material, an early stage, you can make a release on a COA. If you go to late stage, you need to do a potential full testing of your material. It's also interesting to understand what is your landscape from a regulatory standpoint. The EU is way more tight and restrictive than a US FDA regulator, so it's really understanding to have this bigger picture. From a Q9, again, risk assessments, visibility is for me an absolutely must. But going back to, from a manufacturing standpoint, it's really important to understand what is your business continuity plan looks like. And it's not just the raw material, it's your people, it's your equipment. It's, how do you manage if you lose suddenly Wi-Fi. A lot of things are today on a Wi-Fi, how you have enough IT support. So for Andelyn, for example, our main building at the ACC, the commercial facility, has 2 different internet providers. They're coming from 2 different directions. So when one goes down, we have a second one which will pick up. And on the right-hand side, the quality part. And as a former head of quality, quality is an absolutely must, because the earlier you have quality involvement, the easier it is, the faster you can identify the issues. And I really like to highlight here 2 parts. One is quality on the shop floor. And quality on the shop floor is not policing the ops guys. It's the opposite. It's to have a sounding board, to have an understanding. If something goes wrong, that you have immediately escalation to the quality organization. And you can resolve a lot of the problems really easy. We had a few weeks ago, we had a situation. We had a quality on the shop floor person there. We had a supervisor from my organization there. 6 o'clock in the evening, they came together, had a quick chat, knew how to document, could further process with the production. So it's really fundamentally important to have quality on the shop floor. The same is with quality culture. It's crucial. SOPs are great. Procedures is great, whatever it is, but if you don't have the culture, your organization will be not successful. And for me, culture is, on the quality side, is a day-to-day activity. It has to be driven by myself, but it has to be also coming from the bottom up. Last but not least, we have at Andelyn, as many of companies out there, we have electronic systems, we have LIMS, etc., which I think is a foundation today, which really helps us going back to risk assessments to identify certain trends around deviation, etc. I touched a little bit on the analytical strategy, and again, it's really what is important. It changes from preclinic to phase 1 to phase 3, and you see, one of my favorite topics is, because we talk at the moment a lot of raw material assessments and raw material quality in general, is really to understand how you want to test raw materials, and it's really a lot of driven by clients, and it's also a lot of driven what their risk appetite is. From our side, Andelyn will always make a recommendation, you should go in this way, but if a client won't go above and beyond, hey, we can definitely do that. Last but not least, I went to a little bit topic around, how we assess the risk when we are on the PD side, which really helps us to have a robust process at the end of the day in the manufacturing side. We really focusing in all our production when we get a new client, and we do a yield assessment and a simple to see, hey, does it really behave as we expect? And we have several tools there. One is quality by design on DOEs. And there, going back to the risk assessment, you can make as many DOEs as you like. We had a client in our past which want to do 99 DOEs. And at the end of the day, that's great, but is it really valuable for you to do so many DOEs? So going back to the data which we created over our 20 years, we could justify, hey, I think you should really focus on these 5, 6 critical parameters, and the other ones, they're great, but they will not make a difference at the end of the day for the product. So we really try to be agile, because at the end of the day, going back to our vision mission, we wanted that the product gets to the clinic, the product gets out there. It's in our interest to track it out. We want to be agile. So quality by design, DOEs, important also there. What is really helpful, going back to our agile production platform, we have scaled down models. So we can run a 200 liter, a 50 liter, but we can go even further down from a manufacturing standpoint on the PD side. So we can do a lot of the scaled or QBD and DOEs, we can do that on a scaled down model, which is really fast and effective. And then what is also important, in the same area, we will do, the analytical method qualification, which we do with a dedicated team in the dedicated space. And that's from my side. Any questions?